guys, welcome back to my Practically Imperfect Life. Today I wanted to share about the SAT prep program that we chose to have my oldest daughter do this year in anticipation of her taking the digital SAT this coming spring. I'll talk to you a little bit about why we chose to go with an online program, what we like about the one that we're using, and how things are going so far. Now, I know there are a lot of mixed opinions out there as to whether or not students should even bother taking the SAT or ACT, since so many colleges and universities no longer require it as a part of the admissions process. However, we have found in our research into different schools that there are some that still either require it or highly recommend that those scores are provided. We found one school that my daughter was interested in that required it for homeschoolers who were applying there. Several schools have told us that they use those scores if they're available to help place students into different levels of math and English courses. And then, of course, there are scholarships that you can apply for where your test scores are part of that application process. So we thought it'd be best to go ahead and make sure that our kids are prepared to take those exams and plan to go ahead and have them done. And traditionally, it's taken at the end of your junior year or the spring of your junior year. That way, if your score is not quite what you want it to be, you have the summer to study up and you can take it again in the fall of your senior year. That's the plan that we are going for. So back in the fall, I started to do some research on different SAT prep programs. I had sat down and talked to my daughter about what she felt would be the best way to help her prepare. I offered the test prep booklets that you can get where it's, a lot of different information and practice questions and things like that. And then I talked to her about online programs. And it was actually her who said that an online program was something that she would prefer. She just felt like that would be something that would help her stay more accountable to doing the studying from week to week, and being able to have a program that will kind of customize things for her would just be a better use of her time. So once we knew that we wanted to go with an online SAT prep program, I started looking at lots of different options. Some of the top ones that kept getting mentioned were, of course, the Princeton Review. I think that's the one that most people know about. It's definitely one of the kind of bigger programs out there. Kaplan has courses as well. Prep Expert, PrepScholar, and ultimately we decided to go with PrepScholar. And as I kind of go through the details of how PrepScholar works, you will probably be able to see kind of why we decided to go with that particular one. So there were several things about PrepScholar that really appealed to me. One of those was that the people who put this whole course together are those who scored perfect or near perfect scores on the SAT, ACT. So they know the strategies that helped them be successful. They understand how these tests work. And in fact, their staff of tutors and individuals who put together their lessons are all people who scored in the 99th percentile and are trained educators as well. So they have a really highly qualified staff running their program. The other thing that really appealed to me about PrepScholar is the fact that it customizes the weekly lesson plans and the types of questions that students are reviewing based on where their weak points are. What are the things that they need to review the most? What are the things that they are struggling with? Because if you've mastered a concept, there's really no point in constantly reviewing that concept. Instead, let's use our time wisely and focus in on the things that we need to have the most improvement on. And so I liked that so much about the program. Now, in addition to the online prep, they do offer one-on-one tutoring. Currently, we haven't decided to do that option at all. We are strictly doing their online program, and the one that we're doing is called the Complete Online SAT program. They have several different types of packages you can purchase. So if you want to do online with one-on-one tutoring, or if you're planning to prepare for multiple different types of tests, they have several different types of programs, each geared towards its individual test. But they include skills lessons, and then they have over 7,000 practical practice questions that the student could potentially do as they're preparing for the digital SAT. And they have 4 full-length practice SATs that the students can do as well. So they can really get a feel for what those tests look like, how it feels to actually sit down and go through that test start to finish. And especially for homeschoolers, I feel like that's incredibly helpful because, the only environment where they have where they've taken exams are, here in the home. And in many cases, those are shorter exams. They're not always structured like the typical standardized testing that kids in public and private school see year to year. So it really should help reduce anxiety about these exams overall, getting that chance to go through a full-length exam several times. So right after doing the initial sign-up, the very first thing that my daughter did was log on and do a 60-question diagnostic exam. This took her a little over an hour, and it had questions from all different areas of the SAT. So there were math questions, reading comprehension questions, writing and grammar questions. And at the very end of that, we received an email that gave us the breakdown of her initial score. It took all of the different things the SAT covers and it divided them into different topics. And I want to say it was like 45 different mini topics from the three major categories: reading, writing, and math. And we got an initial score of how she did in each of those. And from that, the program creates a customized study plan. And that customized study plan will adjust as she progresses through it. And she'll do specific lessons that focus in on topics she needs to work on. She will do practice questions. And if she's showing improvement or movement towards mastery in a skill set, then the customized plan will adjust. So basically, she can see her progress, how it is she's improving in each of those different categories. And once a skill is mastered, then time is shifted to be focusing more on the things that she's still struggling with or the things that she still needs to improve on. So it's really cool to just see how the program really changes week to week for her, and it's very cool to be able to see her progression in those different areas. So the lessons are typically a video with some diagrams that are teaching a particular concept or a particular topic on that day. They're very well done videos. They take these concepts that can sometimes be difficult to understand, and they've been really wonderful at breaking them down into, bite-sized chunks or in really just easy to understand terms. So I find that that's been a wonderful review. Again, she's covered a lot of these topics already in school, but some of them are things that were either a struggle the first time through or it's been a while since she's looked at those things. So it's really nice for her to have that kind of review to do. And then there are practice questions that will follow up from those lessons, and she'll be able to get feedback on those questions if she gets them wrong. They provide explanations for every single question so you can see why the correct answer was correct. As I mentioned, the customized study plan is based on the results of the initial diagnostic exam. So each week, student logs on and there is a list of suggested lessons for that week. You can work to get all of those done on that given week, but if there's anything that's left undone at the end of the week, it will push that to the following week. And a lesson will cover one of those kind of micro topics from the digital SAT. A lesson might include an interactive video, diagrams, some reading that focuses on teaching a particular skill or a particular concept. They also have lessons that talk about about testing strategies. So what are ways that you can approach certain types of questions to increase your odds of getting the correct answer? Because it's not just about memorizing all the correct answers or always being able to solve something out all the way to completion, but actually looking at the possible options and using those testing strategies to help narrow it down to the answer most likely to be correct. So I really like that not only is it teaching the skills to know how to solve the problems, but also just test-taking strategies in general. I think the combination of those two things really can help improve a student's chances of success on the digital SAT. Then there are practice questions that they'll do after a lesson, and they can get feedback on the results from that. If they miss a question, they can see the correct answer along with a full explanation about why that answer was correct or how to solve a particular problem. And I like that they can also kind of go back and review past problems that they have missed as well. Another cool feature is the ability to create your own quizzes. So if you're feeling like you need a little extra practice on a given topic, you can go into this program and you can create a quiz or have a quiz kind of auto-generated on a topic. And that's not a part of the assigned lessons, but that's just something extra if a student feels like they need a little more work in a particular area. To help keep students on track and accountable, they can receive text reminders to complete their study time. So when a student logs on Mondays, they actually will put in how many hours that week they anticipate studying for the SAT, and they can put in a schedule that they think they're going to follow. So you might put in Monday 10 to 11, Wednesday 3 to 5, Friday 9 to 10. But basically they can put in when they think they're going to be studying and for how long. And then they can receive a text reminder that, hey, time to log on and do your studying. Now, that doesn't mean that they absolutely have to meet those times. Of course, they can log on anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but it gives them a chance to provide feedback from how they did the previous week. So if you said you were going to study 3 days a week for 2 hours and you only did 2, there's actually a little box in there that says, did you meet your study schedule that you set? And if not, what are your thoughts? Like, what was going on? Were you just busy that week? Did something change with your schedule? Did you forget? Were you not feeling it? Like, basically, like their chance to kind of reflect on why or why not they met the goal that they had set for themselves. And then each week I also get a progress email. So I can see how many lessons she's completed in that given week. I can see how her scores in the different topics have improved from one week to the next. So that helps me to be able to just kind of keep tabs on how she's doing and if she is kind of keeping pace with the goals that she set for herself. The website itself is extremely user-friendly. It took us just a few minutes to figure out where everything was at, how to navigate it, how to do different things. And I've taken a couple screenshots to give you an idea of what kind of things you will see on the website. When you first log on, you'll land on the dashboard page. Now at the very top of the dashboard page, it will let you know how many lessons were completed the previous week. And then you can see all of the lessons that are assigned for the current week. As I mentioned before, if a lesson isn't completed, it will simply get pushed ahead to the following week. The lessons will cover the different categories: reading, writing, math, and you'll notice that some of them have different titles. Like it might say core math or advanced reading, and I'll explain kind of what those different terms mean here in a little bit, but it will show her all of the different lessons that she has coming up. Each lesson will focus on one of the 45 skills. Now over on the side then, there is a progress bar showing her how many hours she studied that current week versus the goal she set for herself on Monday. And then she can also look at her progress on each individual category or each individual SAT skill. It'll show her where she started out at on her diagnostic test, and then it'll show her how she scored at the most recent lesson that she did. So she can easily see how it is she's improved on each individual topic. And I thought that was really cool because even after just a few lessons, we saw a huge jump on some of these skills. Another one of the tabs she can go to is the strategies tab. And here there are lessons that are all about test taking strategies. What are you going to be tested on? How to work through test anxiety? How do you set appropriate goals? What are strategies to help improve your chances of success? I like that that is included on there. I think that's just something that's skipped over far too often when it comes to test prep. Next up is the progress tab, and here's where those labels of core or advanced that we saw on the lessons on the dashboard page come into play. When students do the diagnostic exam, they are categorized as either being in core, advanced, or mastery levels for the different skills of the SAT. And again, there's 45 of them, I believe, that are covered in the program. As they progress through lessons and do the practice questions, they can move up as they improve. So you might start off at a core level and then move to the advanced, or you might move up to the mastery, or maybe you initially tested in as advanced and then are working towards mastery. So that will progress over time. So anything that's labeled core means that they're still learning the fundamentals of that particular skill. They can probably answer the easiest questions for that topic. Advanced means they're learning the advanced topics for that skill, and they can probably answer the majority or many of the questions in that category. Mastery means that they've, mastered the skill and they can answer most, if not all, of the questions in that category. After they've hit the mastery level, they no longer will be assigned lessons on that topic. Instead, their time will be refocused on the things that they're still at the core or the advanced level at. They also have a fourth category, and that is paused. If it seems like it is very difficult for the student to progress in that particular skill, like even after lessons and practice questions, that topic will get paused for a while, and the system will refocus their time on things that they have a better chance of improving on. So they might spend more time on things that they're at the core level at, moving up to advanced, or moving more from advanced to mastery in other topics. And that doesn't mean that they won't see that particular skill ever again. It simply means that for the time being, they're going to focus on the areas that they are more likely to improve on, and they'll come back to those other things later. In the incorrect answers tab, students can go back and they can see the questions that they missed on the previously completed lessons or previously completed practice questions. And again, for each of those questions, they can see a full explanation as to what the correct answer was and why. There's also a tab for generating a quiz. So if there's a topic that a student wants to spend a little more time on, they can go on there, select that topic, how many questions they want that quiz to be, and they can spend a little more time and see a few more practice questions on that topic. So what do we think of PrepScholar's so far? Well, overall, I'm very impressed with the program, to be honest. I love that it's very user-friendly. My daughter's had no issues with logging on, going through the lessons, doing the practice questions. I also like that it's very flexible. She can do it at different times of day for different amounts of time. She doesn't have to log on every day. She doesn't have to do it for a certain amount of time each day. If she can only do a part of a lesson right now and needs to come back and finish it up later, she can do that. It's made it really easy for her to adjust the days and times she's working on this as her personal schedule and her sports practices and games and things like that change from week to week. I also really like the feedback. I like that I get an email showing me her progress, the fact that she can see right there on her dashboard page how she's progressing. I think that's helpful for improving her confidence to see just how much her scores are going up in different categories. I'm also really pleased that it does include the 4 full-length practice SATs and the fact that she'll be able to get feedback on her performance for each of those. The SAT will be the longest exam that she's ever taken. And I know it can be nerve-wracking. I know. I recall being nervous myself when I took it years ago. And it's just nice that we can kind of set up a mock environment of what that might feel like. Setting up, a quiet area with the computer. What are the things that she'll be allowed to have or not allowed to have? And just really trying to make it as, realistic as of an environment as possible to help her get comfortable with that setting, to get comfortable with what it's going to feel like knowing that you have a time limit on things, to know what it'll feel like to have to simply sit there for that length of time working on something like that. So I think this will all overall be very helpful for her. Now, we obviously can't tell you how much this will have impacted her score until we get past the actual SAT, and we aren't taking, she's not taking that until later this spring, but I think this will overall be a really beneficial thing for her. I'm happy with the program so far. She's doing well with it. She hasn't had any complaints. She's been spending quite a bit of time in the last couple of weeks, especially really focusing in on getting through these lessons, getting through these practice questions and the practice exams. And if this is something that we feel is beneficial, then we will look into doing the same thing next year when my younger student is getting ready to take his SAT. Now, in general, all of the different online SAT prep programs that I looked at were quite pricey. The one that we are doing cost $397. And you might say, well, that seems kind of like a lot of money to spend for one test. And it is a lot of money to spend. But again, we have our reasons for wanting our kids to take the SAT. And if we're going to spend the time getting prepared for it and the money to take the exam, we wanted to try to find something that we felt would be the most bang for our buck, like the most beneficial for the money we were spending. And so far, based on what I've seen of the program and how it works online, as well as the progress that I've seen my daughter make in those different categories, I feel like it's been a worthwhile investment. Now, I will be sure to give you guys updates as we get closer and closer to the SAT on how we're feeling about the program. I will ask my daughter for her feedback as well, so I can share with you kind of from a student's perspective what she thinks of the program and if she feels like it has helped her feel prepared and comfortable before she takes her SAT. If you have any questions about this program or about the SAT prep, feel free to leave a comment down below. I will be happy to try to answer those questions for you. I will also link PrepScholar down below in the description box if you would like to check out their website and learn more about the services that they offer. I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up before you go. If you're not already a subscriber, hit that subscribe button so you can follow along with our homeschooling through high school journey. Thanks for joining me today, everybody. Happy homeschooling.